All right, let's get into our Lifeline. So, Jakob Chychrun signed a long-ass contract extension with the Washington Capitals for $9 million, which is a lot of money for a guy who might miss time because he poisoned himself with raw milk. But we need to talk about a few things. Number one, this man removed the lights from his house and is using candles for some God knows what reason. But number two, the fact that he signed, I think it's an 8-year contract extension, allows some stability for his family. Like, I don't think people understand. When you sign a giant contract extension, your wife can now go out and find a job because she knows she's going to be there. What is the purpose of Jacob's wife going and trying to find a job when he could be moving to a city in July or August? Like, there's literally 0 point in doing that. And so I think that's part of it, is like, what's it like as a spouse when you're like, wow, I can actually like hang out with the wags and like not worry about getting traded, and like I can get a job if I want to, because when your husband makes $9 million, you might not have to, but also you might need to because your husband spends all his money on things like liver and candles and
beeswax candles or whatever.
First of all, do you know how expensive beeswax candles are? Someone tried it, they're like,
no,
oh,
because
and
I
was
use
like,
incandescent light bulbs like a normal person. I don't know how much
So,
beeswax candles cost.
I was like, I like this candle. I was at a farmer's market. I use lights, okay? I use lights. Actually, extremely funny. This is a bone of contention between Nick and I. So when I watch like Bayern Munich play soccer or any like sports team, I watch it with the lights off because I don't want glare on the TV. I don't want distractions. I sit in the dark and I watch. He comes home, he fires on every single light in the house, like, and I'm just like, come on.
That's so funny. I'm Team Nick. I'm a lights
Your team
on
lights?
watching
God
sports
damn, I'm gonna have to
person. The screen is too bright otherwise. Like, if there's glare is priority number one, is to get that out of there. Like, I'll close curtains if the sun is out and reflecting on the TV and stuff, but, like, I don't like watching even a movie in the pitch black, because I'm just like, it's so aggressive on my face, which is funny. I literally have a ring light, blue light shining in my face right now, but this is for a purpose. Like, I if I can have some other light on when watching something, I'm going to, so I'm on Team Nick.
Okay, so I was at the farmer's market, and this lady was selling these beeswax candles, and I was like, damn, these smell really good. I want them. $400. And I was like, yo, what?
What?
$400 for a candle.
That's insane.
I was like, yo.
I never would have guessed that.
Yeah, no, she had smaller ones, and they were $50, and I was like, I'm not doing that. So apparently the ones you get at White Barn are not beeswax candles, because... yeah. So Jakob Chychrun is using beeswax candles to light his entire God knows how big house. I guarantee you that's more expensive than whatever his hydro bill is.
Oh my gosh, that's actually nuts.
But, like, did you see Bryce Harper missed opening of MLB training camp?
He's an odd guy.
Of raw milk? He got food poisoning from raw milk.
I just can't get on board with it, because it falls into a similar category about how I feel about media. And, like, bear with me for a second, because I sound crazy. But the whole idea of, like, rejecting modern things just for the sake of rejecting them is crazy to me. I completely understand that if there's some form, like, well, yeah, like research or whatever, like a lot of things to do with like blue light and how it affects your eyes and how kids are becoming more like nearsighted because they don't spend as much time outside and their depth perception is not developed. Like, there's like legitimate research that goes into a lot of stuff, but it's the whole concept of like, oh, however long ago, 100 years ago, when, you know, we were dealing with communist Russia, people were like, hey, maybe we should be careful about what we believe from media. And it's like, hey, great thought. But all of a sudden, 100 years later, this has turned into, well, actually nothing the media says can be true. And it's like, whoa, we lost the plot somewhere along the way. Because that's not where we wanted to end up here.
Yeah, like, people are like, I read this on Facebook, and I'm like, are you okay? Like,
exactly. And so where we get with this whole, like, no vaccinations, no artificial red dye 40, whatever, all these things, like, there is definitely some conversation to be had about what technology and processed stuff has done at XYZ, but it's like, not
GMO.
because something wasn't a thing 500 years ago, it doesn't mean it's bad. I promise you that. I can promise you that. Just because it was a thing 500 years ago doesn't mean it's bad.
My favorite
right?
tweet
this is a real
in the
thing.
last, my favorite tweet in, the last, 4 months has been, we survived the Black Plague without vaccines, and the first reply underneath it was, a third of the world's population died.
Right. Exactly.
Bro.
That's the whole thing with all this sort of stuff where it's people are like, oh yeah, well, people didn't used to have XYZ. It's people used to die a lot more than they die now. So just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind.
On a daily basis. On a daily basis. So Jakob Chychrun gets his contract, gets his bag, is going to buy all the candles you could possibly imagine, all the $500 candles, that man's all over it, and he's going to eat all the, raw liver and, all manner of craziness. All I'm going to say is this. Jacob, the average hockey player, and actually, not even the average hockey player, every single really, really talented hockey player does not have a college degree. Most of them didn't go to post-secondary education at all, and if we're being super honest, they weren't really forced to do proper work in high school either. I know so many NHL players that didn't go to a single grade 11 or 12 math class and miraculously passed. So I'm not going to be taking the opinions of anybody in the National Hockey League as it pertains to science, because odds are if I put a grade 8 science test in front of them, they would fail it. So this is the thing.
Well, that's always the thing, right? With Jakob Chychrun, it's that, okay, if this is the life you want to choose to lead, everyone's entitled to do what they want to do with themselves, whatever. The issue I have with people that fall into the same realm in terms of beliefs, and I don't know if Jakob Chychrun applies to this, because I'm going to be honest with you, I don't have a relationship with this guy. Never met him, never talked to him. If he's turning around and saying, well, then you all should, that's where I draw the line. It's okay,
exactly.
Let's chill. If you just want to mind your own and do your thing, you know what? Okay. Enjoy your beeswax candles, enjoy your natural sunlight and your, no added preservatives or whatever you want. That's okay, but as soon as you start acting holier than thou, that's when I struggle with it, and I cannot speak to what side of that spectrum Jakob Chychrun falls on, so jury's still out for me on how I feel about that, but if he's going to turn around and tell Alex Ovechkin that he can't drink Dr. Pepper anymore, we're not friends.
We're
Jakob
out,
Chychrun.
because you know who's a better hockey player than Jakob Chychrun? Alex Ovechkin. I can come. You know what? It's so funny though, because you have guys like Jakob Chychrun, and Dylan Strome was literally making fun of him on a podcast. He's like, there are lights in the hockey rink, my man. What are we doing? But there's guys like Jakob Chychrun who are like, I need to do this and this and cell phone 5G nonsense, whatever. And then Alex Ovechkin rocks up with a Subway sandwich and a Dr. Pepper, and the guy's about to break Wayne Gretzky's goal record. Okay. I can comfortably say, after asking Bruce Boudreau a ton of questions about Alex Ovechkin, that man has some of the worst diet habits in the National Hockey League. So something tells me, and it might not be I'm not saying everyone should be drinking Dr. Pepper and eating Subway every day, but all I'm saying is I don't necessarily think we also need to be eating liver and not having lights in our house either. I think there's a happy
There's always
medium
a happy medium. There's always a happy medium between everything. And that's been the bit of the show, right? Is that it's there's always, it's never that extreme. That's always what it is. You can, it's okay. It's fine.
It's not that serious. I'm with you. If you want to drink your raw milk and eat your liver, go right ahead. Number one, don't tell me to do that. The moment you're telling people about vaccines and how they're bad, I understand skepticism with COVID, given how it was handled. I still got 6 shots. But when we're talking about measles coming back, when we had eradicated that from the planet because people don't want to vaccinate their kids, then I'm drawing the line, because that actually impacts the rest of society. You drinking raw milk doesn't impact me at all. But if if I'm around somewhere that has measles, and then I go around a baby who hasn't been vaccinated yet, and that kid dies, that's a problem. And it's because your dumb ass doesn't believe in science that happened 80 years ago.
It's why we have lanes on the highway. I completely acknowledge that if you were driving there by yourself, you could go wherever you want down that path and it would be fine. We have lanes because sometimes our actions impact other people, and that's what we have to do.
But yeah, like, I'm willing to have conversation about, like, the medical field, especially because I have a master's of science. Like, I understand, like, you have to have different conversation, and there's new research that says, like, hey, this is bad, or, like, XYZ. There are also people in this world that have allergic reactions to vaccines who obviously can't get them for safety reasons. That's different. But when you're telling me that the polio vaccination doesn't work, like, that's not the same as using candles in your house. Yeah, right. That's not the same as using candles in your house. Because your candle situation doesn't impact me.
Right.
Like, that's it, right? As a society, we need to... This is, Lyss, and I think you and I, we talk about this all the time. As a society, where did we get to where we literally looked at the person next to us and is like, I don't give a crap about you? Like...
Yep.
How do you just not care about anybody but yourself? Like, I don't get it.
It's the whole concept of, like, the I need to put me first, whatever mentality of, like, actually you do have obligations when you live in a society. We benefit from the trades of goods and services every single day. That's how you have a house over your head. That's how you have food on your table, is because we live in, whether you want to call it capitalism, whether you want to call it society in general, trades of goods and services is how community and living in the proximity and in engagement with other people has existed forever and always. And it's not always material. Sometimes it's emotional in how we treat other people. And, like, you do have an obligation to be a good person to other people. And even if I can't tangibly tell you what the exact output of that is and how it benefits you, you got to do it anyway. Sorry if that bothers you.
Exactly. It's not... When we live in a society... Listen, if you want to go live in... in solitude, and you don't want to interact with society at all, and you want to get your groceries delivered, and you never want to leave your house, you do whatever you want. I don't care. The moment you start relying on social services, like the hospital, like the doctor, like going out in public to a restaurant, you have a responsibility to be a decent human being, whether that is how you treat the waitress, how you treat the doctor, not taking public transit and coughing all over people. Don't do that. And if you're going to do that, I understand. Like, cars are not affordable for everybody. That's totally fine. Masks are free. And if you have freaking strep throat and you aren't wearing a mask and I get strep throat because of it, like, last week I got sick. And why was it? It's because some not very nice person was right beside my head and coughed. And I got sick literally the next day. And I was like, that is how I got sick. You have a responsibility as a member of society to not be a douche canoe. Don't do that. That is Lifeline. We covered candles and society. I mean, that's what we do, right, Lyss?
Oh my gosh. It's a funny thing. Like, so I do a show on Sundays called WST Sunday Live with my co-hosts Connor and Jacob, and I took a screen recording of one of our episodes a couple of weeks ago because I was like, this perfectly embodies the entirety of not just our show but my life. Because Connor's like, okay, I have a thing with that. He's like, and I want to know if you guys have time for this argument. And immediately my face kind of lights up, and Jacob's like, what are you talking about? Liz has time for every argument, because I am always down to shoot the shit and talk about, like, you know, how we feel about things and how, you know, things impact one another, and turning everything into, like, a theory, because I always have a theory, and it's always trying to talk about, like, logic that flows its way through life, and whether it stems from hockey or not, I can always find a way to make it about hockey regardless.
We're gonna have Lyss's theory corner next time you're on.
Oh my god. You don't want that, I promise.
I love it. No, like, that's I love having these conversations, though, because it's like we talked about earlier, there are certain things you can have a discussion about. Being a good human being is not one of those things. You either are or you aren't. It is like, that, I feel like, is very black and white. You are a good human or you are not. There's no room for error or discussion there. Like, Mike and I had this conversation.
I could have a discussion about it. I could have a conversation about it, because I always can.
Drunk driving? Like,
never mind. Not
don't do it. Like, that, you have a societal contract not to do that.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That's what it is. The societal contract.